So, hello all, and thank you for joining us today on this coffee hour presentation. My name is Ryan Anderson. I'm the outreach manager here at Kendal at Home. With us as well from the Kendal at Home side is Sue Woykin. There's Sue, popping on the screen. She is the marketing and events coordinator for Kendal at Home, and she'll be handling all the behind the scenes stuff for us, making sure the Zoom runs smoothly and everything there. So if you have any questions technical wise, please feel free to put a direct message in the chat, and Sue will be more than happy to take care of that for you. Just a couple housekeeping items here. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to pop those into the chat or the Q&A, and we'd be more than happy to answer those at the end of this session. Also in the top right-hand corner, there is a view option. If you want to change the view, if you're not liking the way the view is, if you want to change it, change the size of different things as we share screens, please feel free to do so there in the top right. And then also, let me just make sure this is on. There is a live transcript feature option there for you. If you would like to put that on, there's a button in the bottom right-hand corner. And if you press the little caret where it says that CC live transcript, you can either turn those on or you can turn them off or change the size of those as well. But with us today, let me introduce Mr. Michael Williams here. Mr. Williams is the Dean of Dean of Engagement and Student Support at Cleveland Metro School District here in Cleveland, and he's also an author too, as of the pandemic, and that's what he's here today to talk to us about. So Mr. Williams, we're very pleased to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're looking forward to hearing your story and learning more about your journey as an author, and then obviously speaking the Brown Crayon as well, your book, and hearing the impact there as well. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So yeah, without further ado, take it away. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you, first of all, Kendal at Home, for this invitation. I really appreciate the opportunity to come to you today to present my book, as well as talk about why I wrote the book and how it came about. First of all, I am the Dean of Students at Glenville High School, which is a historical high school here in the city of Cleveland. I've been with the school district for about 22 years. I started as a paraprofessional and worked my way up into administration. So I do love my job. I do love this generation. It is a very challenging generation, but I do believe that I was called to work in this generation. So I do love what I do every day. Outside of that, I'm just a normal guy, a single parent of a twin 18-year-old boys. Young men. So really need your prayers for that, because they are 18 and they do 18-year-old things. So they keep it, keep it challenging around the house, but we're doing really well. Everybody's employed and doing well. I never wrote a book in my life. I've never wrote a manuscript. I've never wrote a test copy. I've never wrote a sloppy copy. I've never even thought about writing a book. I think what happened in 2020 when we were all in the quarantine, I think what happened was people actually found themselves. They found new things about themselves. They found old things that they needed to heal. We've had people that were couples that needed to heal. A lot came together when we were in lockdown. And unfortunately, my boys were with their mom. And because of what COVID was doing, I would not allow them to just travel back and forth. So I told them to stay with their mom. And we just kept in touch through, FaceTime and things like that. So I was locked down by myself during the quarantine. So it was just me and God during the quarantine. That was it. And I'm a very avid Christian. I'm a deacon in my church. So I just began to have church in my own home. I did my own thing, my own worship service or whatever. I went out just, like everybody else, I went out to I shopped online at Sam's Club and did, got the food put in my car and back to the house. And I did what we were supposed to do in order to keep safe. So during that quarantine time, there was a lot going on in our country dealing with almost like a rebirth of racism and things that our students studied where they were actually looking at. They were looking at riots, and they were looking at disrespect with all races. They were looking at blatant, open disrespect with all races, and they were watching these things. And I felt that our children were getting the wrong message. I felt that our children were getting messages of hate, of retaliation, messages of no peace, as if there could not be any conversation or any common ground, or not even room to agree to disagree. It was just, I hate you, you hate me, let's get it on and let's tear the city up. It was just a lot going on. And it was sparked with the George Floyd incident, as well as the Breonna Taylor incident. And it was almost horrendous for me to see as well my own students that helped destroy downtown Cleveland. And it got me, you know, like, wow, these are like, it's personal, because these were my students that were doing things like this. And I really did not want them to, you know, show their anger or retaliate in that manner. And so my heart began to go out to kids everywhere. Like, what are we teaching our kids? What are they seeing? What is the danger of what's to come of this generation after they've witnessed all of this? And so I prayed about it. You know, my dad was a pastor, so he just taught us to pray about everything. Like, Lord, just, you know, give me direction on, you know, next time I get in these classrooms or in the office or in the professional development, give me direction on what to say to our young people. And it was like the Lord said, hey, grab your laptop. I want to show you something. And I picked up my laptop, and this is where it gets really weird, but it just gets amazing. I picked up my laptop and I just started typing like a story, you know. There's the bell and it's time to go home. You know, I've got homework that should not take very long, and it started rhyming. And so I'm just typing, you know, just straight out of my imagination, just typing. And it got so good that it scared me. Because sometimes, you know, when you're pushed or when you're moved out of your comfort zone, it's a scary thing. You know, I'm used to going home, coming to work, going to church, spending time with the kids. That's basically it, riding roller coasters. I'm a roller coaster fanatic. So I used to be a supervisor at Cedar Point. So I was just an avid roller coaster rider. And that was all I was used to. So I pushed the computer away from me. And I said, you know what? This ain't me. I don't write books. I don't write children's books. I don't do this. And I left it alone for about 2 weeks. I just never touched it. Never touched it again. Went back to my normalcy and never visited the issue again. I was sitting playing video games. I do that too. I don't think I said that, but I do. And it was like God said to me, trust me on this. Go grab the laptop. Trust me on this. And so I said, okay, let's just do it. So I grabbed the laptop, sat on the couch. My kids were still playing the game, and I just started writing. And it just like this. It was word for word. If I didn't know a rhyming word, I was just kind of thinking what rhymes with this, because I wanted to keep the rhyme going. And I actually completed the entire book. And then I just sat there and I sat back for a while. And my kids were like, what's going on? I'm like, nothing much, you know. And I sat back there for a while. And by the way, when I say my kids, we play online. So, you know, I was alone, but we play with video games. You can play online with your kids, and they know when you're gone and when you're off, and you FaceTime or whatever. This is a whole new generation. So we're not pagers and telephones outside anymore, cords or anything that I grew up with, cassette tapes, all that stuff. I said nothing. I said, let me get with y'all in a minute. And I was just like, wow, let me read this over. So I read it over. Read it over, and I was like, wow, this is actually a book. This is actually a book. And I read it, and then I just like, okay, I'm gonna call my brother. I only have one brother. He lives in Tennessee. I said, Clarence, I said, listen, I want to read you something. You tell me what you think about it. He said, okay. I went ahead and I read it to him. And he said, "Did you write that?" And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "No, for real, you wrote that." I said, "No, seriously, I wrote this." And he was like, "Mike, that is amazing. Like, that's a whole book. Like, that's like," he's like, it's from like people from 0 to 92. Like, you don't understand. That's a book. I'm like, "Are you serious?" Like, "Yeah, seriously, that's a book. You need to publish that. That's what it is." I said, "Okay." He said, "What's the name of it?" I said, "I don't have a name yet." He said, "Okay." A couple of days later, I decided to read it to my kids. I read it to them on FaceTime, and they were like, "Wow!" They were like, "So everything stems around this brown crayon." So they said, "So maybe that's what you should name the book." So my oldest of the 18, you know, they're minutes apart. He was like, "It should be the brown crayon." I'm like, "Okay, well then that's it. It's going to be the brown crayon." And then from there, I was like, "Okay, Lord, if this is what you're doing, if this is what we're doing, I know that you're going to supply the need," because, you know, money was tight. We were trying to survive. We were trying to make it. So I don't have like any extra funds sit off to the side to do any projects or anything of that nature. So I titled it The Brown Crayon. I went on to, I Googled, how do you copyright a book? Found out you go through the Library of Congress to get official copywriting. So I went there, started putting the stuff in that the information asked me to fill out. I think it was $65 and you pay online. And so I paid online, and then you got to wait a while, and then they'll send you like an official copyright number. And that's what they did. So after that, they sent the copyright number. I was like, okay, so this is really like becoming something. This is moving. So I Googled how to publish a book, how to make a book. Well, of course, you know, and with technology and with social media and with interneting, when you Google something, it's going to continue to pop up all kind of ads. I don't care what you're looking at. It's going to pop up ads. It's going to pop up commercials. It's going to pop up anything to grab your attention the minute that you show interest in a particular subject or thing. From there, I just started getting emails and ads and pop-ups, even on my Facebook. So on the side, there was how to publish books and things of that nature. And I went from there, and I picked a company that I thought was reputable because I'm aware of where books come from being an educator. So I picked Paper House Books. And I had a phone conversation with the lady from Paper House Books, and she said, "Yeah, you're a new author. You're on your journey. You're doing your thing. So this is what it takes to write a book, and this is what it takes." I said, "Okay, thank you for the conversation." She gave me the breakdown of the costs and whatnot. I said, "Okay, thank you." So from there, I said, "Okay, now I'm not an artist at all. I don't draw. As far as art is concerned, I am a vocalist, so I went to school for singing, Wright State University. You know, I learned how to sing in Italian, German, Russian, opera, all of that. I grew up singing in church, and I'm also the choir director at my church, as well as I've created choirs at whatever schools I was at. You know, traveling the country with different choirs and singing things of that nature. So that is the only thing artistically that I am doing at that point, was just singing and not knowing that I was an author as well. And I called a friend of mine that go to church with me, and I knew she was an artist. Her name is Laura Buress. I knew she was an artist because she would always bring little things to church and say, "Listen, I'm having a showing. You guys participate." I said, "Okay." So I called her on Zoom, and I said, "Well, I called her and I said, let me send you a Zoom link." I said, "Listen, I wrote a book." And she said, "You did what?" I said, "No, for real. I wrote a book." I said, "And I'm going to read it to you." And I said, "Whatever you feel like God gave you to be the cover of this book, that is going to be the cover. There's no debate, no question, no concern. I'm just going to trust that you're going to hear from God to make the right cover for this book." She said, "Okay." So I read her the book. It grabbed her kids' attention who were playing in the background, and that helped me feel good because that was when I realized, okay, this is an attention grabber for kids. So I read the book, and she said, "Oh my gosh, Michael, that is amazing. I'm gonna send you a couple things. Give me a week or so, and I'm just gonna go with what you said. Whatever I feel is what it is." And this is what she came up with. As you can see, she did an amazing job. And I was totally floored. I could not believe that she did all of, even the words, even the colors. She did this entire layout. She sketched it and sent it to me, and she did this entire layout. And that's what she came up with. And that's when I knew, okay, this book is going to come to life. I called Paper House back. I said, I need an illustrator. They do a la carte and they do packages. So at this point, all I needed was the illustrator and them to make the book, the binding, and to make it actually look like a book. And they connected me with a young man who lives out of country. So we did all of the illustrations on Zoom or on telephone calls or through emails. We never met face to face. We were able to see each other FaceTiming here and there, but that's how we handled the illustration. And he did exactly everything I asked for. He did exactly that. There was nothing, like if there were certain pictures I didn't like, and I said, actually, can you put this over this? Like, just to be specific. In this picture here, the clock he had at a different time frame when we get out of school and they get out of school, and it needed to be at the end of the day because that's where the story begins to take place. So I had him change this to 3 o'clock, which is reasonable time to get out of school, as well as putting things on the board that is grade, that connects with their grade level. Because at first he had some calculus stuff on the board, and these are smaller children. And so I said, let's go with basic fractions, something like that. So we were very, very specific on certain designs, continuity, the whole nine. And he did an amazing job with the book. And from there, you buy the contract from him, and you own 100% of the artwork. And that's exactly what I did. From there, it came together. I sent them my manuscript. I told them what I needed done. And they told me that the price to produce one book, to get this all in one book, would be $1,384, $1,384, which is what I did not have. And so I said, okay, thank you. I'll let you guys know what I'm going to do. I'm going to let you guys know how we're going to work this out. And I just went back into prayer. I said, Lord, listen, you gave me the book. You gave me the opportunity. You gave me the chance. I just believe you're going to supply the need, because I don't know where this money is going to come from. I just believe you're going to supply the need. The next day, and it really was the next day. The next day is when we all received, I knew about the 1,400 stimulus, but I didn't know, how you don't know if you're actually going to get it, but we all received the $1,400 stimulus, hit my bank account the next day. And I was like, wow, just to me, God is amazing. I'm like, wow, this is, and for a minute, because, I love shopping, I almost went shopping, but I said, no. The way it was prepared was made for you to do this book. And I said, okay, let's get this book done. And that's how I ended up getting the book published. Went through, it released August of 2021, last year, on the 24th on Amazon. And from then it got, Walmart picked it up, Target picked it up, Barnes & Noble picked it up. I've been on TV, Channel 3 about the book. The sales are amazing. We're almost over 3,000 in sales in less than a year. I've toured everywhere to talk and read to the book, and school districts have purchased the book 800 and 600 at a time. And what I wanted to do is, I have the book, and I want to, I did the audio too, so I'm the one in the audio, and I wanted to play the audio with the book. We have time for that, Ryan?
That sounds amazing. I was just about to say, it's amazing. Sometimes God or the world, or however you want to look at it, works in mysterious ways. How literally the next day, a couple dollars more than what you exactly needed, it just so happens to work out that way. So it's amazing that way. Definitely seems like there was a sign that this was something to be done, something to have. So if you don't mind, we'd love to hear it.
So I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna play my audio. My cousin, who has a studio, he did the sound effects, but it is me reading the book. So I'm gonna play the audio with the book as the PowerPoint flips to the screen, so you can get the full effect. Okay.
Sounds
So let me
fantastic.
get that done. And just give me a thumbs up when you see the screen.
Screen's there. I'll let you know if the audio isn't
Oh
coming.
yeah, I clicked the audio in, so we should be good.
Perfect.
So I'm gonna actually have to start the audio first, and then I'll start the book. Hold on one second. Oops, sorry about that. I did not mean to do that. Let me grab my audio back. Here we go.
There's the bell, and it's time to go home. I've got homework that should not take very long. Our teacher gave us a chance to pick a crayon from the bag. I looked around and saw all the pretty colors everyone had. But when I opened my hands, what did I see? An ugly brown crayon that had to go home with me. Brown, brown, brown. Why couldn't you be bright and flashy like a clown? As I got in the car to go home with my parents, I looked next to me, and smiling as always was my little brother Clarence. He doesn't know the tragic homework I have to write down. You see, I have to write a poem on the wonderful things about the color brown. Well, dinner was over. Dad was asleep with the TV watching him. Mom was changing Clarence, and I was feeling pretty grim. Grim like the color brown. That crayon began to stare at me and boo. I know, I said to the crayon. I only got an hour to write why anybody should like you. So with a bad attitude, I grabbed some paper and scooted up to the table. This has to be quick. I've got to get back to cable. I spoke as I wrote. Brown, brown, it's not a clown, but I guess we all need brown around. I don't think so, sir, my mom said to me. Look the color brown up and tell me what you see. My dad cracked a smile and went back to snoring. I got up, grabbed the laptop, and started exploring. The first thing popped up was a lot of amazing brown things. Coats, horses, trees, and even ice cream. I kept scrolling until my screen was filled with brown. Chocolate, squirrels, hairdos, and even coffee grounds. Wow, it was never ending. It seemed like I was scrolling for hours. Keys, luggage, pretzels, footballs, and stacks of pennies that made dollars. I got excited. I was ready to write, but then something caught my eye. I had to look again. I had to look twice. A brown ground, the color of Earth's dirt, the mud and the soil that holds foundations of work. How powerful is this brown that keeps buildings from leaning, that helps food to grow and give life's true meaning? That was it. It was time to write. I've seen all I needed to see to know the color brown is out of sight. I held that brown crayon in one hand and I wrote with the other. The words came easy and smooth as butter. Period. It was done. I completed my assignment. Time for bed. The computer is dead. Tomorrow, I will be known as the class giant. Why? Because I won and conquered this homework. I took something I thought was nothing and I got it from the dirt. I slept happily and with my brown crayon, thinking of all the wonderful things I've seen. And now to know what the color brown really means. Well, the day is here and Clarence is crying. But I don't care. My mind was flying. I'm on a mission to tell the class what I found out. I grabbed a muffin, an apple, and my bag off the couch. I ran to the mirror to take one last look. Wait! Who is that holding my books? It was proud, bold, with 2 feet for the ground. It was smiling. It was winning. It was me. It was Brown. At that moment, everything had a different meaning. I realized the crayon I'd been holding was me and my feelings, ugly, lonely, and something nobody wanted to take home, scared, dirty, and afraid to be alone. I dropped my books, my apple fell and rolled like a ball. I touched the brown person in the mirror, and a tear began to fall. I thought you knew, my dad said, standing behind. You're the best Brown created in time. So how did the poem turn out? I guess you want to ask. Well, you've been reading it from the beginning, the one I wrote for class. What happened to that brown crayon? Did I turn it in? No. I asked the teacher if I could keep it because I needed this new brown friend. Before I went to bed, I grabbed the brown crayon and went to the mirror. Thank you, brown crayon, for helping me see things clearer.
All righty. And that's it. That is the book, and I'm proud of it.
Absolutely, you should be. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
So at what point, like, so you talked about what inspired you on it. So why a crayon? I guess is the thing that's coming to my mind on it. What kind of sparks that aspect to it as opposed to anything else on?
So I don't have like any like specific reason why a crayon. I will say that crayons are it's pretty much a big show of how we accept them as they're all together.
Mm-hmm.
We accept them together in one box. We accept them together on one sheet of paper. We mix them. We don't discriminate. We may not like a particular color, but it doesn't mean that we hate it. And there's a difference between dislike and hate. And I see that as being very representative with children. And a lot of the schools that I went to, I can remember in particular, I went to the Ashtabula School District. I read for, I think, 7 of their schools in one day. So we were just moving. You know, they had already purchased their books, but these assistant superintendent, what she did, she ran out to Walmart while I was on my 3rd school, and she purchased, and I was not aware that Crayola made a box of crayons called Shades of Brown. And so she went out and purchased tons of boxes so that every child could get their own shade of brown crayons. And it was amazing because even on my Facebook and on my Instagram, I had parents inboxing me saying, hey, my son or my daughter found her shade, and they were amazed to find that their shade of brown exists. And I even had a young lady, and one day I will be able to show, she showed me her son reading a book who looks exactly like my character. It is almost scary. So he fell in love with the book because now he tells his friends it's really about me. He takes it personal. I think crayons are more representative with kids. And so that's one of the reasons why it was a great idea to choose that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, like there's shades of every color in a crayon box, or as you said too, with like even one color, you can have a full box of shades of brown or shades of whatever.
Right.
So it's always interesting seeing that. And as you said too, like with people, each one of us is a different shade. You can try and box it into one thing or whatnot, but like each one of us has a different shade even within that spectrum. So
exactly.
Absolutely. And so I see our CEO, Lynn Giacobbe, has joined us. So thank you, Lynn, as well for joining. And for anyone who is on the broadcast, please feel free to pop in a Q&A questions in the chat or the Q&A. Lynn, I'm not sure if you have any questions.
Yeah, I do. Thanks, Ryan. Michael, I was just wondering, thank you so much for sharing this. I loved hearing
welcome.
the animated version of the book. I think it's wonderful. Well, I was wondering, been the response from children? What do they say when you've had the opportunity to share this story with them? I think it's so relatable at every age, as you said, but what in particular are children saying about it?
I think one of the most surprising things for me in this book is this the majority of the children that I'm reading to and the school districts that are saying, hey, we want to purchase 600 books, or hey, we want to purchase 450 books, we want you to do readings, are a Caucasian school districts. And I think it's awesome because I think some of them really just want to understand and want to see a different light, because like one of the things I was so proud to do is and that I'm blessed of, not only is this book relatable today, Lynn, my dad was born and raised during the time where he was pulled out of school and made to pick cotton. You know, I come from older parents. My parents were almost near 40s when they decided to have children, but they were married since they were 16 with no marriage license back then because they didn't exist.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was able to talk about that with the kids because my dad would tell me stories about how his best friend was a white kid, which is where I got my middle name, Gary. And when my dad was pulled out of school, this kid would go to the field and teach my father how to read, because him and my father became friends. And I was trying to show our students how, you know, to me, hate is like, it's a learned thing. And we're able to unlearn it and see difference, you know. And I was trying, and I think what that connected us, and I said, this is where my middle name comes from. It wasn't a black man that helped my dad, it was a white boy that helped my dad, and they became the best of friends. And I said, with that, we have to learn. One of the questions that the young lady said, they had many questions, Lynn, many, but one of them said, well, so what is the difference between black and white? And I said, the only difference is color. I said, we all have the ability to grow and to be what we need to be. Yes, there may be more struggles on this side, or there may be more struggles on this side, and less over here, or less over there, but we have conquerors. We have conquering blood. So we're able to go through these challenges and be what we need to be. Of course, most of them they're coming up and they want to know, did I have to deal with racism? Did I have to deal with personal things? And I was able to share a couple things that I went through, that I had to do, the way I dealt with something wrong and the way I dealt with something the right way. And I liked it because you could see them opening up. When I went to Oberlin was amazing. They did I read for them that day to all their grade levels. And then that night they did a book night for parents to come and get signed. And it was a huge event. I mean, I didn't know it was going to be that big. They had raffles and all this and that. It was amazing to have the parents there and me talk to the parents and the kids. And you could see that an understanding was being met. And I always take my one son with me, Anthony, one of my twins. He travels with me, take my pictures, whatnot. And I was able to teach him, because he's in the generation where I don't want him to just pick up that hate. I want him to learn how to deal with it differently, and how to, you know, rise above things that he feels like he has to do things violently, doesn't have to end that way. So yeah, it's a lot about understanding. A lot of kids have questions about understanding. They want to know. Yeah. And I don't have any problems with letting them know.
That's what a wonderful way to do that. Ryan, do you want to read that question? Natalie has a question.
Yeah, so it's a question. It's more of a comment, actually. So one of the listeners said, I feel like it's so important to recognize and truly see colors. Being colorblind is so harmful and it perpetuates racism. It is important to see the beauty in every color. Michael, thank you so much for sharing. This book is amazing. And I think too, that's getting into what you're talking about, Michael, too, is the idea of the hate is a learned thing. And it's one of those things where if you are able to see things, you're able to then counteract it there, and not
Right.
so much as being blind to it, shall we say. So I guess the question I have too is, obviously there's differences between people who have already learned that hate, or people who are in that, shall we say, moldable stage in life, the youth of our population. How do you see the difference in talking to those two groups, two different groups, when talking about race or talking about colors? What's the differences there, and how do you kind of go about talking about that?
So I agree with you, Ryan. I think like my parents' generation and this today generation of teenagers and what they deal with, whether they're dealing with police brutality or whether they're dealing with racism on the job. Right now, we try to teach them how to understand what's going on and how to teach them options of response. You don't have to respond the way that you see on television, or you see in a movie, or the way that you see them done in the past. What we try to teach, I'm going to start with our generation first. What I try to teach them first is that there are different responses that give you different results. And there needs to be more teaching of learning how to respond, because one thing that we can't do, and we have to all admit, is that we're not going to be able to take it away. It's going to be here. It's going to perpetuate itself in any situation. So we have to get the reality that we have to give this generation is how to deal with it, and how do we respond to it, or how do we not respond to it. There were times when I was called names and I never turned around. And you don't have to respond to everything. And well, why didn't you turn around, Dad? Well, that's not my name. Now, if they say Michael, I'll turn around. But they're calling names that I'm not aware of. So I'm not, they don't want my attention. They don't want me. And so that's a different way I teach my kids to respond. As far as my parents' generation and me moving this, yesterday was my birthday. So I turned 51 yesterday. So as far as me moving into my parents' generation, my parents were, they were hurt to a lot of that. They watched their relatives hurt, they watched their friends hurt, they watched people die through it. And so there were some ideas that my dad had that we just couldn't shake. You understand? And it was difficult because I would watch my dad react in a way that I know I can't go to school and react that way. So there were ways, and I know it came out of his hurt. So what I try to do with the older generation is just try to get them to understand where we are now and how the responses are different. I'm not here to make people like each other or fall in love with each other. I just want us to respect each other and make sure that we understand that there are differences. I did not wake up and say, God, pick a dark color and shade me. This is how I came out. And I'm not going to apologize for coming out this hue, but this is how I came out. And so none of us, whether we're white, black, orange, so we should not live in a state of that we feel we can't produce because of this. And I was blessed when the children were coming up and hugging me, and a lot of them would tell me, it was their first interaction. Because of what you see on the media and because of what you see in the news, and just being candid, my kids are very fearful. I'm scared. I walk down the street and I pass seven black kids, and yes, I'm crossing the other side because I don't know what's going on. But I know what I've seen and what I've heard. And right now, I work at Beachwood Mall. I also work at Bath and Body Works, and it's my kids that's tearing them all up. And so it's hard. Like I tell my students, it's hard for people to respect you when every time they turn on the TV or every time they look on Facebook or every time you all are putting up videos of how you tearing up stores and tearing up communities and tearing up each other. And now you want to say, respect me, I'm nice. You can't do that. So it's the way you portray yourself as well. And it's difficult for me because when I get into a situation, because of that portrayal, I got to fight through, that's not who I am. And so I just want every generation to understand that some of us are actually struggling and fighting through racism and trying to love one another. We don't have to like each other, but try to respect each other. And then some people are not doing that. So it's about choices on whether it's an older generation or a younger generation. It's really about how you choose to react to what is going on.
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about that too, where you see things on the media and you see things on social media even, and it just, there are stereotypes or things or whatever, and you start to become fearful of different things to it. How, and that's a subset, unfortunately, but it becomes a reality when people see it, and so they assume different things about people. How do you think that we start to kind of break down those barriers to it, where we realize, that's a very small minority and most people are great, so that we can start to have those conversations where we can learn to respect one another, versus, as you said, if you're there and you're going to cross the street and walk on the other side, how can we start to have those conversations there without this fear of what we kind of see on the media?
What Kendal at home is doing right now, having these conversations. If we're afraid to talk to these young people, then put them on Zoom. Have these conversations. We have to, and I'm speaking of Caucasian young people and African American young people and Spanish and Muslim, or I'm speaking of all of them. One thing we have to do is we have to have an understanding of each other. So, for example, I listen to totally gospel music. I like a little bit of R&B, and I love neo soul music. My son, Lord help me, listens to all kind of stuff. But this is what I did. I needed to know what's in his head. So what we did in the mornings when we leave, whether I'm taking him to school or I'm going to work, or when we leave the house, I have control over the radio in the car, in the truck. So he has to listen to whatever I play. He can't put his AirPods on. He got whatever I'm playing. And when we leave a place, so we're on our way home, whether we're on, because he went to the school I'm the dean at. And when we're on our way home, he gets control. And I have to listen to whatever he plays. And in the mornings, I can see him getting accustomed, because I do like gospel in the morning, because it puts me in the mood, get me ready for the day, and I can see him, nodding his head or whatever, and he's getting accustomed to it. But then at home, I'm hearing the language and the vulgarity that we can't. And I told my church this, we got to stop. Oh, no, the blood of Jesus, I'm not listening to that. We got to stop that. We have to hear it. You have to know what this generation is listening to. And so I listen, and I'm driving like, oh, Lord Jesus, help me right now. But I hear it. And we got to understand messages of hate, racism, abuse towards women, disrespect is in a lot of this music. And our kids are pumping it. We look at kids with AirPods on, they're not listening to radio ministry. This is what's pumping all day. And by the time they walk into the schoolhouse and they're already hearing, there are certain songs that say F everybody, you on your own, you self-made. And so these kids get this idea that nobody likes me, I can't trust nobody, everybody against me, I'm on my own. And so when he walks into that classroom and the teacher is like, you're late, where's your pencil? She's already the enemy. And so what comes out of his mouth? Shut the F up talking to me. I ain't in the mood for you, da, da, da. And now he's sitting in my office. This is how it works every day in school. And so what I try to help our educators with is, I want you to understand they're getting these messages. They're doing it early in the morning. They're coming to school already with this music pumping in their ear of how negative life is, or how they can't trust nobody, or how, and I'm talking white and Black. They're getting these messages. And so it's hard when we don't know how to come against that. And so now that I'm able to hear with my son, we talk about it. And I told him, I said, there's one particular song that I need you to stop playing. I said, there's a song called Murder on My Mind. I can't believe there's a song out there like that. And it's circulating. I said, I don't want to hear that no more in the car. He was like, all right, Dad. I said, he said, it's just a song. I said, I understand that. I said, but they're not just songs.
Right.
Yeah,
There's a
I said,
message.
I said, so please don't ever play that again. So he never plays that. But now, thank God I had the wisdom. I didn't know that he was playing that type of stuff. And we go to church every Sunday. I didn't know he was playing that type of stuff. What you think about killing? Cereal? Like, I don't understand. And so we have to have these conversations. We have to be open, or especially us over 30s and 40s. We have to stop reading history books. We got to be open. We got to open our eyes of what's going on today. The young people are talking. We just can't hear them. We choose to tune them out. We choose to go another route. We choose not to sit in the restaurant with them. We choose not to help them at the counter. We choose, it's a gamut of things. I love when a bunch of young people walk in my store. When they walk in the Bath and Body, like, hey, how you doing? Welcome to Bath and Body Works. Are you all here for home or health or body? What's up? Oh, we just look. I said, okay, but let me show you something, because you look like you look like you like a little fun, and you like you clean spirit. Let me, and I'll spray some on the car, and I get that conversation going. I make them feel comfortable. I'm not gonna walk when they come in. I don't have this mindset. Oh my God, they're about to steal. And Bath and Body Works teaches that we don't stereotype. And so once I have that conversation with them, they might walk out with 2 or 3 items, but we connected, and they'll come back again, and they'll bring a friend, and that connection begins. We have to learn how to have conversations and start listening to what we don't want to hear. We have to.
That's so important on all fronts. But thank you so much, Michael. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for sharing this book with us. I think it's amazing. I can't even tell you, I've bought a few copies and I've given each one of them away.
Oh,
so
thank you.
I think it's a wonderful story and a great way to open up that conversation with children and adults both. So thank you. I appreciate your joining us and sharing this with us, and for all of your work.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. And thank you all for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great weekend.
You too.
Thanks for joining us today. Thanks to everyone who joined us as well.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us today, and especially thank you, Michael, for reading the book and having this conversation with us today. For everyone, upcoming events, we do have some next Wednesday. That would be June 15th at 11 a.m. We will continue these conversations. So we have a special guest, a Kendal at Home member, Doris Evans, is going to be talking about Juneteenth. Juneteenth officially became the 11th federal holiday last year. So we will be celebrating that on June 19th of this year. So we thought, let's have a conversation around it, learn a little bit about its history, its importance, and what it means for us as a nation, and where we go from there. So if that's of interest to you, that is up on our website, kendalathome.org, and then in the top right, courses and seminars right there for you. That will be next Wednesday, June 15th at 11 a.m. And as always, we do thank the Friends Foundation for the Aging for their generous support and helping us put on these programs for Kendal at Home members and the greater community at large too. So please feel free to send this invite or let people know, friends, neighbors, family, etc., as it's open to everyone. All are welcome. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan.